This Archon archetype build is perfect for tackling Apocalypse difficulty in Remnant 2, and I'll include a short clip of defeating the final boss on Apocalypse difficulty at the end of this video to support that claim. This build eliminates the need to reload and grants unlimited ammo along with unrivaled dodging. It also maximizes armor and allows for quick overshielding to prevent getting one-shotted by most if not all attacks. All of the required items, archetypes, and traits will be covered in this guide. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. First, let's cover all the important pieces of this build and how they synergize, then we can talk about how to get them all. Our two archetypes are Archon and Medic, with the Archon skill being variable and the Medic skill being strictly the healing shield. The armor is going to be anything heavy. Leto Mark 1 and Mark 2 are both good options. Shielded Heart is the relic of choice, and we will use the Nightfall long gun with the Refunder Mutator, and the Rupture cannon handgun with the Helix mod and Harmonizer Mutator. Melee weapon choice is not important as this is not a melee dependent build. For the Amulet, we will be using the Full Moon Circlet, which will be paired with the Ring of Omens to replace the basic dodge roll with a Misty Step evade. Another critical ring is the Generating Band, which synergizes with the Shielded Heart. We are also going to use the Provisioner ring, and the fourth ring is mostly a matter of preference, but I really like the Black Cat Band. Moving on to traits, we will be maxing out Vigor, Spirit, Fitness, Bloodstream, Glutton, and Fortify. The handful of remaining points can then be invested into the Regrowth trait. Now let's talk about synergies and the combat loop for this build. The loop is pretty straightforward. Start a fight by using the Dreadwalker mod on Nightfall. This will allow you to put out a lot of damage and has the added benefit of providing 10 lifesteal, which can regenerate lost health. When it ends, switch over to the Rupture cannon and use both charges of Helix, then unload the entire magazine of regular shots, but don't bother reloading. If you're at Archon level 10, you should be able to just switch back to the Nightfall and use the Dreadwalker mod again. While doing this, the Provisioner ring will reload the stowed Rupture cannon, and the Refunder Mutator, if fully upgraded, will refill the reserve ammo on both the Rupture cannon and Nightfall. You can then repeat this process for the entire fight, never having to reload either gun and never having to worry about running out of ammo. As a small side note, the Helix mod is also great for clearing ads during boss fights. Combining the Full Moon Circlet and Ring of Omens replaces dodge roll with a Misty Step, which ignores encumbrance and consumes red health rather than stamina. The red health is turned to gray health, which is regenerated by the Bloodstream trait, as well as healing over time from the Healing Shield skill and the Shielded Heart relic. Both of those shields benefit from the Generating Band, which heals 3% of max health per second while a shield is active. Moving on, the high armor and resistances means this build can take a couple hits from most enemies before going down, even on Apocalypse. Even so, some attacks will be too much on higher difficulties. That is where you can preemptively use a Shielded Heart or the Healing Shield skill to absorb a heavy attack if needed. With 10 relic charges, boss fights can often be completed with shields up for the majority of the time. That being said, one of this build's major strengths is the ability to not just dodge through attacks, but entirely out of their path. Most of the time when an enemy telegraphs an attack, the Misty Step can get you far enough away from it that you don't even have to time it all that well. Now let's cover how to get the various items used in this build. As a quick side note, I'll put links to any relevant guides near the bottom of this video's description. Starting with the armor, Leto's Mark 1 is the best option. The Whispers NPC should sell this armor after completing the campaign at least once, but there is a known bug that prevents this from happening. If you don't have the Mark 1, Mark 2 is also a good option, and I've covered how to get it in a separate guide video. For the Relic, we need the Shielded Heart. It can be found on Nerude in the Tower of the Unseen side dungeon. For me, this was in the version of Nerude that started at Seeker's Rest. The puzzle in Tower of the Unseen involves using stellar-powered cells to open various doors. To get the Shielded Heart, make sure you have a power cell, then find the hidden path beneath one of the elevators. It leads down to an otherwise inaccessible area where you can slot the power cell into a receptacle. This will open a nearby door that leads to the Shielded Heart. Tower of the Unseen also contains the ED Alpha boss, which drops the Refunder Mutator, another item that we will need. Next, let's get the Nightfall long gun. The crafting material for this weapon is obtained by defeating the Night Weaver, which is the final boss in the version of Losomn that starts at Morrow Parish. You'll need to defeat the Night Weaver without breaking her heart. Just avoid shooting her weak spot whenever she's spawning ads and you'll get the Cursed Dream Silks, which can be given to McCabe at Ward 13 for the Nightfall gun. We'll need the Refunder Mutator to put on Nightfall, and as mentioned earlier, you get this Mutator by defeating ED Alpha in the Tower of the Unseen on Narud. Moving on, the Rupture Cannon will be our handgun. This is obtained in the Vault of the Formless, another side dungeon on Narud. The final challenge of this dungeon is a gauntlet of sorts. As you make your way through it, you'll have to cross a series of rotating passages. Stand in the second one of these until it rotates, revealing a hidden room. There, you can grab the House Lifeblood glyph, then continue on to the end of the gauntlet. There, you'll find a locked door that can be opened with the glyph, granting access to the Rupture Cannon. You'll also unlock the Fitness trait for completing Vault of the Unseen, which we will be using. The mod for the Rupture Cannon is Helix. It's crafted from the Seeker Residue material, which drops from the Astropath boss. This is the boss in Astropath's Respite on Narud. It's one of the possible final dungeons in the version of Narud that starts at Seeker's Rest. Skewer 2.0 is also a pretty good mod option, but requires completing most of the campaign to get. Once again, the Mutator we will use on our Rupture Cannon is Harmonizer. This Mutator can be purchased from Dwell in Ward 13. Now let's get the Amulet, which is the Full Moon Circlet. And this one is only found in the Imperial Gardens sublocation of Yaesha. And for anyone wondering, I found the Imperial Gardens in the version of Yaesha that starts at the Red Throne. Like with the Ring of Omens, an active blood moon is required to get this amulet. Fast travel in and out of the Imperial Gardens until you see the telltale red hue in the sky. Once the blood moon is active, proceed into the Imperial Gardens and look for an engraved red plate sitting in front of a statue. When approached during a blood moon, the plate will slide out of the way, revealing a hidden chamber where the Full Moon Circlet is kept. We'll need to pair it with the Ring of Omens. This ring can be found in the Cathedral of Omens, located in the Yaesha biome. Of the two versions of Yaesha you can get, I only ever found the Cathedral of Omens in the version that starts at the Forbidden Grove. When you get to the Cathedral, make sure that the red moon is active. You can tell if it is by the lighting in the room. It should be a tint of red that extends beyond the glow of the checkpoint crystal. If the red moon is not active, you can fast travel back and forth from Ward 13 until you find the red moon is active in the Cathedral, although it may take some time to get lucky. Once you have a red moon active, make your way to the central chamber. Here, we'll need to complete a puzzle. There are 3 unique items that can be obtained here, but we will just focus on the Ring of Omens. To get it, pull the lever near the entrance of the chamber 1 time. Next, move to the lever near the right side of the chamber and pull it a total of 4 times. This will cause the door behind us to open. In the room beyond, there are 2 chests, and if a blood moon is active, the red plate on the ground should slide open, revealing a hidden chamber that contains the ring. Next up is the Provisioner Ring. It can be purchased from Reggie in Ward 13 after defeating the Labyrinth Sentinel boss with a hardcore character on any difficulty. Playing with friends can make hardcore a lot less scary. Most bosses can be fought by just 1 or 2 players, while a final player waits outside of the boss room. If the players fighting the boss die, the players outside the boss room can rest at a checkpoint to revive them. Just make sure that the player outside enters the boss room before it is defeated, or they may not get credit for it. And the same goes for players that are dead when the boss is defeated. To make sure that everyone gets the hardcore rewards, everyone should be alive and in the boss room when that boss is defeated. The final ring that we absolutely need is the Generating Band. This can be obtained during the Flooding Room event on Nerude. This can appear in several side dungeons, and for me it was in the Void Vessel facility. You only get 1 try to do this right, so watch ahead before proceeding. All players that are alive must be present in order to enter the flooding room. Once they do, it will begin to flood. There are 3 unique items that can be obtained as you make your way up through the challenge. The final and highest one is the Generating Band. As long as you grab the Generating Band before you die, you should still have it upon respawning. Once the room floods, it stays flooded, and you'll have to find the challenge again in a new run through Nerude to give it another attempt. The 4th ring is a bit more open to personal preference. I found myself using the Black Cat Band the most often. This ring is sold by Reggie in Ward 13 after dying 15 or more times. The Dread font is also a good option and can be found randomly throughout Losomn. Now let's move on to the archetypes. Our primary archetype will be Archon. The process for unlocking it is extensive and requires reaching the back rooms. I've already completely covered how to do this in a 25-minute long guide. You can find a link to it near the bottom of this video's description. As far as which of the Archon skills to use, that can vary. For general exploration and traversal, I often use the Havoc form skill. However, for many boss fights, especially on Apocalypse difficulty, the Reality Rune skill is extremely useful. For the second archetype, I think there is a little more leeway in what you choose, but personally, I really like to use Medic. There are multiple reasons for this. Medics get increased healing effectiveness, have access to the extremely powerful Healing Shield skill, and get a 25 boost to all damage and a 5% boost to crit chance. They also conserve Grey health from being lost when getting damaged, and increase Relic use speed. All of this goes a long way to improving survivability. To unlock the Medic archetype, purchase the Medic pin from Dr. Nora in Ward 13. Then take it to Wallace to craft the Caduceus Idol engram. Finally, let's cover the best traits to use with this build and how to get them. Vigor is a core trait that will allow us to take bigger hits and will also improve both our shields and the healing effectiveness of the Generating Band. Spirit, another core trait, will enable better mod power gen, which is key for the combat loop of this build. Fitness will greatly improve our ability to evade attacks and is unlocked by completing the Vault of the Formless Gauntlet event on Nerude. Bloodstream will greatly increase Grey health regen and it's unlocked in Yaesha. You'll need to speak with Maedra and take her test. Then, pick all of the more selfish, violent, and/or pessimistic choices in response to her questions. Glutton is another all-around great trait, increasing consumable use speed by up to 30%. To get it, you'll need to be playing in co-op. In Losomn, there is a random chance that one of the dungeons will be the Great Hall. During the Feast event there, you will be afflicted with the Ravenous condition. With that condition active, trying to revive downed allies will cause you to eat them instead. Doing so will unlock this trait for yourself and everyone else in the group. The Fortify trait can be unlocked for use with any archetype by leveling up the Engineer archetype to 10. I also have a guide on how to unlock the Engineer, which is by finding the alien device near the poisoned border of the second overworld area in either version of Narud. Maxing out the Fortify trait will increase our already considerable armor by 50%. Finally, the few remaining trait points can be invested into any option of your choice. Personally, I put them into Regrowth for some passive healing over time. This trait is unlocked for all archetypes by leveling up the Summoner archetype to level 10. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I'll do my best to help. I'm also curious to hear of any ways you found to modify or improve this build. If you want to see more great guides, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Wednesday, and as always, thanks for watching. As promised, here is me defeating the final boss on Apocalypse difficulty. Once again, thanks for watching.